Hey everyone, this is Yesshift. I'm Steven Shinder, the son of this team, and that's Dan Shinder, the dad of the team. And
Dad of the team.
yeah, oh yeah, that is kind of weird wording, but yeah. So
You son of a team. Oh,
yeah,
wait.
yeah. So today, March 4th, would have been Chris Squire's 77th birthday. He's been gone for almost 10 years, so we're going live again to remember him and talk about him. So feel free to chime in with your favorites that feature Chris, things you think are underrated, favorite outfits, even. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
Did
this
you
is
see him? Did you meet him?
right. Um,
It's kind of
yeah,
a like anything goes Chris show, I guess, right?
right, yeah. Sorry, I was checking something and I
That's okay.
thought like I'm making sure that we're live and we are, but like I
Yeah.
saw like a different video in the feed first, so I was kind of confused. But
No worries.
yeah, so I did see that Billy Sherwood made a remembrance post as he does, and he shared a video from Conspiracy Live, which I think looks like it was filmed in a studio. And I've seen this video before. It's on YouTube and it features him and Chris, and Michael Sherwood is there as well, even.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, this video has them playing Days of Wonder, which is a conspiracy song, as well as Hold Out Your Hand and You by My Side from his amazing solo album. I almost said Chris out of water, but Fish out of water. Um, yeah, and even though it's kind of a different version of the song, it still feels pretty strong. And I really like, I don't know if I've seen this whole Conspiracy Live video. I know it came out on DVD back in the day, like 2006. So I don't know if the visual quality as it looks in the YouTube video is how the DVD would look if one were to watch it now. But either way, I think it'd be cool if they were to re-release that and maybe upscale a bit, do like a little reissue thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And quick shout out to Daniel Giamicelli. I hope I got that right. Thanks for chiming in. Yeah, that was some good music. If I were to ask you, Steve, and the audience, anybody watching, what if you wanted to give someone an entry point to Chris's music from with Yes, one song, what would that one song be that really exemplifies his bass playing, his sound, his singing? You know, he had amazing harmonies. What would that one song be? And I know with such a vast catalog that's hard, but if you had to pick just one, what would it be?
So I feel like there are a couple ways to answer that. So for clarification, do you mean introduce someone to his playing within Yes, or introduce
Yeah.
someone to what Yes sounds like and it happens to feature him?
No, no, no. It's got to be him, how he sounds in Yes. Him being in Yes. What's the biggest exemplification of that?
Okay. I
Well
feel like,
rounded. You know, his playing, his singing, everything. He wrote lyrics, but
yeah.
you don't have to drill it down to the lyrics.
Yeah, so when you asked the question, two things came to mind. So the first thing that came to mind for me was "Does It Really Happen?" Uh, from the Drama album.
Yeah.
That's Chris all over that
That's the
song.
third one that came to my head. It's funny you said that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that Drama used to be controversial among Yes fans, but it's really become a favorite over time, so it
Yeah.
doesn't feel that controversial for it to be the first one that came to mind, really. Um, the second one that came to mind was Heart of the Sunrise.
Mm.
It's just so iconic, that sound, and just hearing it go over and over, and it possibly the most different sounding group song on that Fragile album, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Like it's pretty different from Roundabout, Long Distance Runaround, and South Side of the Sky in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. Uh,
Mine would be the first one I thought of was Long Distance Runaround because his harmonies are all throughout that. The the epitome of his Rickenbacker sound is very in the forefront. The phrasing of his playing, all those things. But then I thought, well, then what about Roundabout? And Roundabout
right.
just has such a neat, unique bass line that's so busy, but yet fits so deeply into the groove, which is unique in itself, and his harmonies as well. But then I thought, well, then, like you said, there's Heart of the Sunrise. But I actually thought of Does It Really Happen before I thought of Heart of the Sunrise, which is kind of weird. And then
Yeah.
having said all that, I've heard Geddy Lee say years ago that when he heard um, Time in a Word when it first came out, that's what got him hooked on the bass and Chris Squire. And if you think about that, that's kind of, I don't know, to me that's kind of weird because it's so laid back and so simple, but there's something
Well,
about it that just grabbed Geddy.
yeah, when I think of Chris's bass and Time and a Word, like the album, like the first thing that comes to mind for me when putting those two together is the song Then. Like that song feels like a precursor to Heart of the Sunrise. You know,
Mm,
it's got the do 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 do. Like I think feel like that's a really underrated one that people don't talk about enough. Then.
yeah, I agree. There's so many. I mean, there's Can You Imagine, which is one of my favorites of him singing lead from Magnification.
Yeah. And
Um,
again, another example of something that was reworked from something older that they had in the archives. You know, that was an XYZ demo originally called Can You See? And then they reworked it for that. And it sounds great with the orchestra adding textures here and there.
yeah. And speaking of Chris's voice, I I've loved everything he has sung on, but I liked his voice in the latter years, like what he did on "Fly from Here," "The Man You Always Wanted Me to Be,"
Oh, when he
that he
said
played
latter years, I thought he meant the latter, like the
"Ladder" and
album
no,
and the tour.
Latter. But that album included. I just think when he got into his 50s and 60s, the timbre of his voice had more to it. You know, I just always vied for, okay, is there a song on here that he sings lead on? Because his voice is just so
Mm.
unique, you know?
Yeah, I feel like there's a bit more freedom to do that in some of, well, at least a couple of the later albums. Um, and you listen to certain things like that It Can Happen cinema demo where that could have had him on lead. And
Hmm.
yeah, that kind of makes me wonder, do you think there are any Yes songs that any of the other vocalists have sang lead on that you think Chris could have held on as like been on lead?
Yeah, I'll say off the top of my head, a lot of them. But if I were to think it through of which songs, I think Does It Really Happen? He could have just sung that lead, and
Mm.
Trevor could have sung background. Um, I think Man in a What? No, I'm kidding.
A white car.
Yeah. Let me think about that. That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know why the first thing that came to mind for me was arriving UFO. Like,
Oh wow.
I don't know why that was the first thing that came to mind. It's such a strange song,
Look
you know.
out in the Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. How about Gosh, now you got me thinking all over the place.
Yeah, I could kind of imagine. Well, can you imagine Starship Trooper? Like, Chris could be like,
Oh,
Sister Bluebird flying high above. I don't even know if I sound like that much
yeah,
like
his
Chris trying
harmonies
that,
are
but.
great in that too. Um,
And I mean, he even the middle section of that, the second part of Starship
mhm.
Trooper, where it's like, loneliness is a power that originated as a song that has him singing those lyrics on lead called "For Everyone." So maybe that's why that was one that came to mind as well. I
And the
also just
lyric,
realized both of the ones I mentioned just now are like space songs, like "Arriving
yeah,
UFO" and
oh,
"Starship
that's
Trooper."
true. Oh,
Yeah.
that does make sense for Chris. What about? Um, oh, I lost it. Oh, the song that's basically a lead vocal duet, in my opinion, with some little solo lines by John Anderson, and that is Parallels. He's basically singing lead on that with John.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I could have, and that was meant for a solo album anyway, so that one works. Yeah, I bet there's other stuff from the ladder and stuff. That's a really interesting question. Do you think
Yeah.
he is overlooked as a vocalist for the most part?
Yeah, and I think we might have touched on that last year. Last year we did focus on his vocals, and I think we mentioned that he really could have made more solo albums with himself on lead, but was just always more focused on working with Yes or doing these other things with Alan that almost happened, like XYZ, and of course cinema was gonna be a thing, and conspiracy originated as a Chris Squire solo thing, but then evolved into him and Billy collaborating.
Right.
So yeah, I think he's perhaps not like, if you say favorite prog rock vocalist, like even if you were to narrow it down to that, I think people would be more inclined to think John Anderson, John Wetton, Greg Lake, the obvious ones, and that's not a slight, obviously. Like, they're
Right.
obvious for a reason.
Yeah.
But I
They are
think,
lead vocalists,
yeah,
as their main role, other than if they play an instrument.
yeah. And I mean, think about it. Like, there's also Phil Collins. Like, if he had just mostly, like, mainly kept drumming, then people might not be thinking about him first as, like, one of their favorite
Yeah.
prog rock vocalists. So I kind of think maybe there's, like, a similar situation there where Chris, sometimes you can hear him a bit better, but other times he kind of lets the whoever ends up being the lead vocalist take the
Take
front on that
exactly.
while he does his thing on bass and
Yeah.
adds the harmonies. But yeah, I think he's definitely one who belongs in the conversation.
Yeah, that's a good point. Um, there's also some really good harmonies on all over Tales from Topographic Oceans. Some really good harmonies.
Yeah. Oh, I see David Allen Raggy says the original version of It Can Happen, which, yeah, I mentioned that earlier, the
Yeah.
cinema demo.
Yeah.
Um,
Daniel, what
yeah,
do you think?
yeah.
See what
Daniel
Daniel said.
said it's a tough question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some other ones that he could have sang. Um, I could kind of imagine him being like the main lead on Machine Messiah, run down the street where the glass shows that summer
Oh,
has gone.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's that later bit too, so yeah.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so some others might come to mind as we continue going through this, but oh, David says, "Does it really happen?" Yeah, that's another one. Yeah,
Yeah. And what about the same thing I mentioned about parallels? If you think about it, Sound Chaser's the same thing. He's singing lead with John, basically.
yeah, yeah.
You
I
know,
wonder. Yeah, I'd kind of be curious to hear like a remix of that where it's like,
him out
di-
front.
different version. Like a little bonus
Oh,
thing.
you know what
What?
I'd love to hear him sing lead on that would really showcase his voice? To Be Over. It
Oh
doesn't,
yeah, if he was like the main vocalist on
yeah,
it,
it
yeah.
doesn't have a lot of busyness that would, he'd get buried in, and there's not a lot of busy bass stuff. And that would be interesting to hear him sing.
Yeah, that would have been cool, yeah. So what about outfits? Like, do you have like a favorite Chris Squire outfit?
Gosh, there's so many of those too. There's that outfit from I wish I had pictures, but the outfit with the furry boots that are
Okay.
like up above his knees. I think that was the Tails or Relayer tour.
It might have been, I want to say Relayer, but people can like correct us if we're
Yeah,
off on that. But yeah, whenever he has like these boots that, uh, he'll kind of stomp around in and they kind of add something.
yeah. How about
Um,
you?
Yeah. Oh, well, the one I was gonna mention is actually one that David mentioned here, the zebra
Zebra
suit,
suit.
which I think is like the white with black stripes one from the 70s. I think
Yeah,
like,
but if I
go,
remember right, it's from the Going for the One tour, and
yeah,
they're
it
not
is.
really stripes. They're shaped like those. It almost looks like a stretched out backgammon board design.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd
You
have
know
to
the
look at it
Yeah,
again, but
and
yeah, that going for the one like black and white outfit, I always thought it looked cool. Like even if the lighting, whether the lighting is yellow or blue, or if it's in footage that is in black and white, it just really stands out and
yeah,
really looks cool.
yeah.
Um,
He was definitely into fashion.
yeah, I mean, there's also that Doctor outfit on the 912 Live tour, which I was
Right.
really obsessed with when I was very little.
Yeah. Oh, we have stories.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Billy Sherwood earlier. Maybe today you can repost our interview with him, because in that the latest interview, I know that was like 3 years ago already, but
Yeah.
we asked a simple question. I think the question was simply, how did you get connected, basically. And then he told the whole story from beginning
Yeah.
up till that point. And it was like a 20-minute, we didn't expect that. And we've had people comment, folks, saying that was the best interview of any Yes member. But we give Billy all the credit because he just was basically divulging and telling a chronological story. It's quite interesting, and there's the whole thing's a nod to Chris and everything. It'd be good
Yeah.
to maybe put
Yeah,
that
I
up.
know that yeah, Billy's birthday is like in a week and a half, so I was planning on reposting then,
Okay.
but we'll see. But yeah, like that conversation where and you'd also like the way that he would describe Chris's personality was so spot on. How Chris would be like, "We're gonna do this. This is gonna be great." How he'd try to push Billy into like
Yeah.
doing certain things, like when he
Yeah.
was pushing him to be the
Lead
lead
vocal.
vocalist of Yes,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was
Ignoring all of Billy's no's and keeps bringing it up.
yeah. I mean, he's a bit in a band called Yes, so it's like yeah. Um, so another thing that we occasionally do on the show is Antithesis Yes, which is
Yeah.
a little game where we, one at a time will say a yes song and the other person will say something that they think is kind of the antithesis, like the opposite of that song. So I think for this variation, Chris Squire variation, we could maybe
Sure.
say ones that feature Chris prominently, but the answer could be like any yes song, maybe like maybe that'll make it easier to do. Um,
Absolutely. That's a good idea. My mind's already going, okay, where's he going to go with this? And how do I? So you start it then.
okay, So I'll start
And
with
folks, play along. Play along.
yeah, play along. Um, oh boy, what do I want to start with? Gates of Delirium.
Soon.
That's
Even
just
though
like
part
right
of it is
within it.
technically a separate song, I think.
Yeah, it has been like played as a separate thing sometimes. Yeah, so
Right.
it's totally fair.
Okay. Sound Chaser.
Onward.
Okay. Oh, you're next to start. You
Right.
see where it's going, folks? You see how to play? Go ahead.
Yeah.
And you could each name two in your own that you think are like opposites, the antithesis, yes, of each other.
Right. Um, Heart of the Sunrise.
Maybe one you mentioned earlier, Arriving UFO.
Okay. Yeah, that's like a bit more mellow. Like it's kind of chaotic in its own way, but
Yeah.
definitely like different tone.
Yeah. David says roundabout to go with that.
Okay.
So I'll lead with Lightning Strikes.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Yeah, because it's got kind of that island feel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm gonna say Wondrous Stories.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a much slower pace.
Very opposite. Yeah.
Oh, it's my turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Where do I want to go with this one? Mind Drive.
I'll take what David just threw out there, Harold Land.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Thanks,
that's a
David.
that's a deep cut from the first
Totally.
album. Um,
Totally.
that one's interesting because it goes from a sort of lighthearted mood and then into like a dark mood talking about war, then ends lighthearted again.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Mind Drive begins like with Steve's guitar, and then it gets into the more intense section, and then gets mellow, and then intense again. It kind of goes in that mode.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. How about Tempest Fugit?
okay. I almost said an ABWH song, but that's not technically it. I almost said The Meeting, but um,
That would be the opposite.
right. But oh, Take the Water to the Mountain.
Okay. Wait,
Yeah.
but that's
It's on Union, so it's I
okay.
guess technically.
But he's not playing on it.
Right. Okay,
Is
I'll try
he?
to think of something
Yeah.
he plays on.
Okay.
It's Hour of Need.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
then
that works.
um okay, I'm gonna throw out a curveball. Ready?
Okay.
Go through this.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice one. Let's see.
I wonder how many people have never really even heard that.
Yeah, there's the instrumental demo on the drama bonus tracks, and then there's a live version that got put on the Word is Live box set.
Yeah.
Um,
I saw them
let's
play
see.
that when I saw
Go
them.
through this. What would be the opposite of that? Um, I guess I've seen All Good People starts out like a
Okay.
slower pace than that.
Fair. How about um I'm gonna go with Dream Time from
Dreamtime.
Magnification.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great one. Um, I'm gonna go with same album. Give love each day.
Ooh, that is quite opposite. Okay, how
Yeah,
about
and I love that song. It's like one of my favorite love songs.
yeah, I do like that song too. Um
I see David said time and a word, and yeah, that is the opposite of Dreamtime, basically.
and You and I. One of their the epitomizes their sound and everything, I think.
Big Generator.
Oh my god, yeah.
That's so different.
Yeah. Production wise, completely opposite, not opposite ends, but like opposite diagonal corners of a matrix. Just one's boxy and boomy, and the other one's like nothing else on out there other than what else is on that album. Two other songs.
Yeah. And,
That's a good
yeah,
one.
and I do really like whenever he added like the harmonica to the live versions. It
Yeah,
added a nice
absolutely.
flavor. So like
Absolutely.
whenever I hear a version like the original "And You and I," for example, from the album, and the harmonica is not there, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot it's not
Yeah,
on this version,
that's
and I
funny.
kind of miss it.
Your turn to start.
Um, um, let's see, which one do I want to throw out now? Let's go with "I'm Running."
Oh, 5% for nothing.
Yeah, you could kind of argue that 5% for nothing is like if you were to condense different parts of "I'm Running" and mash them up into like 30
Yeah,
seconds.
that's funny.
Um, I see the Prague Corner chimes in saying, "I miss Chris," and yeah,
Yeah,
we all do. Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I remember when that news came out like almost 10 years ago. Like I was a wreck. Like it was a hard day for lots of us, and
Yeah.
yeah,
S-
um,
So sad. So young.
yeah. Prague Corner says I cried for a week. Yeah,
The
and
closer I get to that age, the more odd it seems. He was 66, right?
67. Yeah,
67. So I'm close.
yeah, and yeah. It's always like really sad whenever we lose people. In fact, I saw that the other day, Joey Molland, guitarist from Badfinger, and he was part of the classic lineup and on most of their albums. He passed away,
Yeah.
and yeah, so I've been thinking of like maybe sometime we should do like a Badfinger episode, but I don't know if we'd like talk about the album that Tony K was on or do a chronology type thing. So it might be
Right.
something for us to think about, like how we'd
Sure.
want to approach that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
My turn or your turn? My turn.
I wasn't sure how long we wanted to go, but
Oh, okay. We'll each do
but
one more.
okay, one more
Okay.
each. Yeah.
How about uh lightning strikes?
We already did that one.
Oh, oh, just kidding. Okay, Circus of Heaven. Circus of Heaven.
Oh, Circus of Heaven. Um, I'm gonna go with Almost Like Love.
That works. I thought you were going to say Sound Chaser, but almost like Love, totally. The only Yes song with horns, with a horn section that's not part of an orchestra.
Yeah, I
Oh
see
my
David says
God. Changes.
changes is the
Yeah.
opposite of that. Circus of Heaven. He also mentions I heard the news about Chris on the radio. I lost it. I was at work. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was tough. Okay, so one more for me. I'm gonna try. Let's go with Survival.
Oh, that's good. So here's a favorite question, okay?
Okay.
What's your favorite song off of Fish Out of Water?
I usually think of these two songs as kind of the same piece because it one segues into the other, but
Hmm.
Hold Out Your Hand and You by My Side. But if I had to pick just one of those, I think I'd go with You by My Side because it's more emotional and feels like, when anyone sings it, it feels like they have to put more of their heart into it to really have it reach the heights that Chris had it reach.
Interesting. I'm going to play that today. Um, mine is "Hold Out Your Hand," and I love that it's the opening track. I love Bill's playing on it. I love everybody's playing on it, but Chris's voice is just like. Is that the first time we hear him sing lead? Does he
Um,
sing lead on any Yes songs before then? I don't think
no,
so.
I don't think so. Like it's
And
usually like in parallel with John, or he'll be on backing vocals.
right.
But
And I
but
remember
yeah.
how.
So did you say your what you think the opposite of survival would be, or
Oh, did I?
yeah, I
Oh,
wasn't sure if one of those fish out of water songs
oh,
were your
sorry. I
answer, or
jumped to that. Okay, let me go back to that. The opposite of survival, I would say, I'll go with um, footprints,
footsteps.
footsteps,
Yeah,
footprints.
yeah, yeah. I could
Yeah.
see that. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know how I missed that. Yeah, maybe I think I thought it in my head. Uh, Meadowlander says I was at Madison Square Garden for the Union Live tour. Chris was standing in the player tunnel with his 4001, looking at the building, and I tapped him on the shoulder. That's cool. I saw them at the LA Forum at the first part of the Union tour, and was in the Forum Club, which is not backstage, but it's what would be backstage, the after show sort of thing with them, and that was a great experience. And I saw them. I forgot where, at the Pacific Amphitheater. I don't even remember where that is. Steve, is it near where you live? It's in Long Beach or something. It was an outdoor theater. It was during the summer part of the tour, and it
Oh, is it
wasn't
the
around.
Shoreline
Yes.
Amphitheater? Or I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that one's more in the Bay
Oh,
Area.
then that wasn't that. It was
Oh,
a
okay,
Southern California. Your mom went, actually.
okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I met Chris more than once. Met him on the everyone's favorite album tour, Open Your Eyes. Um,
oh, I thought you were gonna say Union.
no. And it was a great meeting. It was fun. He was funny. Your brother was with me, Alex. He was 8.
Yeah, and that. Well, I think he was 7, but yeah, like
7.
7.5 maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Union Madison Square Garden show. There's an audience shot, like full video of that concert. I
Yeah,
remember.
that's right.
I remember in 2007, 2008, I came across it on YouTube. So it was like, oh, there's an extra bit of treasure from that tour. And then it turns out there's, fast forward several years later, there's even more audience shot Union Tour
Yeah.
shows. And that got released as a whole thing. So it's cool that that tour has like a lot of documentation that's easily accessible now.
Yeah.
And David says Silently Falling. Chris's voice is very underrated. Meadowlander also mentioned Silently Falling. So they're mentioning their favorite Fish Out of Water
Yeah.
songs.
Yeah.
And David says Albany, New York for the Union Tour. Okay, so I guess that's when you saw that tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that some of the people in the band are really down, like for sure, on the Union album, and maybe a couple people were kind of down on the idea of the tour. But I think I remember reading in an interview with Trevor Rabin where he talked about the Union tour, saying that Chris was like very, he had like this very happy attitude that everyone was like on stage playing together, and he like
Yeah.
came up to Trevor like while they were playing, doing like a face off type thing, and he was like, "Isn't this greatest thing ever?" or something like that.
Yeah.
So that
For
there
him and
was
John, it
some
must have been
fun.
like the best of both worlds in a way.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, like John and Chris, they had seen the most change in Yes up to that
Yeah.
point, and it's must have
That was a
been.
blending of the two most representative eras of the band and the two most popular eras.
Yeah, I almost wonder if there were times when it felt overwhelming seeing like the revolving door, like from their perspective, the revolving door that
Oh
Yes
yeah, every 2
was.
albums, I'd lose my mind. Every 2 albums,
Yeah.
a personnel change, and then this one guy, who's that tall guy? He keeps coming back. He's like a piece of gum stuck to the bottom of our shoe. We can't get off. That Wakeman guy.
Yeah.
He was in the band like 7 times or something. It must have been weird, but in a
Yeah.
way, maybe refreshing too. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
like
know.
I get the vibe that the first couple changes, like they thought that getting Steve on and then getting Rick on would be closer to what they kind of want for the Yes sound. But then when Bill Bruford left, that was a huge surprise. And John even said, Bill broke my heart. And,
Yeah.
but of course, he ended up loving Alan as well. So, like, it was a blessing. They got Alan and Bill got to do King Crimson. And
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Meadowlander says every instrument was doubled except Chris on bass.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, on the Union tour. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wish. Are there any live performances of anything on Fish Out of Water? I don't recall. I know we didn't tour it, but
So,
didn't they do something at one of the shows?
yeah, at on the 1976 tour, I think they
Right.
played a bit of Hold Out Your Hand at maybe one or a couple of the shows. Like there were a couple or a few shows where they were tinkering with playing a solo piece from each of their solo albums, but I think they might have dropped that after a little bit. And
Yeah.
then you've had other people like do covers live, like on Cruise to the Edge, for
Yeah.
example, of Hold Out Your Hand as a tribute to Chris after his passing.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are a couple instances I can think of.
Absolutely. What is your favorite? If you had to pick one, and not the song, don't think of the song as much. This is for everybody. Don't think of the song as much of a whole, but when you focus in on the bass lines, or second part of the question could be a different song, focus in on his vocals. What's your favorite epic by Yes that he plays on? So anything over, say, 15 minutes.
Okay.
Thinking of the bass line, that's hard to do. You got to not think of just your favorite epic song, because maybe if you just thought about the bass lines, his playing specifically, it's different.
Yeah, I thought that was gonna be tough, but now that I think about it, it's like clear as day to me.
I'm gonna
Um,
guess. I'm gonna guess. Is it's either no? See, now I think it's one of three. Is it Ritual?
yeah, it is.
It is. Okay, cool. And he's basically soloing, playing lead bass and singing with it.
Yeah, and he gets to embellish even more, like in some of the live
Yeah.
versions.
Yeah, that one's a killer. And of course, it's so hard to choose, because if you really even just listen to the bass in Close to the Edge, if you listen to the bass in just Sound Chase, is Sound Chase over 15 minutes? I don't think it is.
No, it's
No.
around
Okay.
10,
Yeah, but
maybe a little less.
yeah, Gates of Delirium. There's so much there, and then you got Four Sides from Topographic Oceans. You got Awaken. You got so many. You got 4, 5, 6. At least 7 songs to choose from, and they're all so epic. Mine, I think, is
Yeah, he's thinking.
yeah, if you're just listening to the audio podcast archive of this, it's man, this is hard. Why did I ask this? I think it might be Ritual as well, but it's not just for the lead soloing part. It's not just for that. Doing the real mellow stuff. Open doors, we find a way. We look, we see, we smile. All the bass part through that whole sing-songy mellow part. Boom, boom, the fire. Boom, boom. It's just all those changes, and then the volatile, stuff that happens. It might have the most antithesis, yes, within itself. Given that,
Yeah.
but. And I love his harmonies through all that part too. So I think it's Ritual.
Yeah, and I see Meadowlander says, I know this isn't 15 minutes, but it's still a cool one to mention. Heart of the Sunrise.
No, that's a single.
Yeah, it's just commercial radio type thing.
Yeah, but it is different from a 15 to 30-minute epic because they're
it's like,
squeezing a lot into a shorter span, but it's one of his most iconic things.
yeah, and David mentions this was one I was actually thinking of potentially for
Oh,
like
that,
vocal
yeah,
reasons. That is off of
yeah,
Keys to Ascension.
good call.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's one I kind of wish could be played live, even if it's in a bridged version. Like I know
no,
for
no,
some people
got to
it's
be the whole
called.
thing. It's got to be the whole thing. You can't cut out the middle part of Roundabout, and you can't make an abridged section of that. That is, I insist.
All right. Well, okay. So then maybe I don't know. So if not in a bridge version, then maybe it'd be cool to see Steve Howe play some of the the guitar centric bits as like a solo spot during a concert.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Dan's right. Thanks.
yeah.
Hold on. Let me get my wife.
I
Hey,
bet you
hon.
love hearing that.
Yeah, don't hear it much.
Right.
But not from you, our team, or my wife. Um, Meadowlander says he or she, I'm sorry, I don't know, agrees on
Yeah,
Ritual.
they agree on Ritual. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think is the most unrecognized, fantastical piece that Chris is playing? Not just of Yes, but of that has Chris's playing that is some real clearly unique playing to him as a musician, but is really a buried bone and not really acknowledged as much. Mine, can I give you mine right off the
Yeah,
top?
go ahead.
I really think Open Your Eyes. I love that live version from Budapest. It just rumbles along, do 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 do. It's just so melodic and follow the bouncing ball, and it's just so underrated. I love that album, and
Yeah, I
I'm not.
think
I'm sorry. It's not like I'm younger and that was my entry point, and so that's all I kind of gravitated towards. I am into everything they've ever done. Been a fan since 1971, and when Open Your Eyes came out, I loved that album. Every song on that. I still don't get why. Well, I do kind of get why. The biggest mistake of that album is when it was released.
yeah.
That's why you're up against. Anyhow, go on. Sorry. What's yours?
Yeah, so I think I'd go with New State of Mind.
Oh, and I love that song too.
Yeah, that's kind of a make it or break it song for some people, but yeah.
And that might be the best Yes Choir, that lineup, and that's one of the best Yes Choir songs, I think.
Interesting.
I mean, think about it. The way that song opens up.
Yeah, waiting for the moment when the moment has been waiting all the time.
You got like 14 people yelling at you.
Yeah, you got more people than Union, or almost as much as Union. David says Talk was very underrated as well. The title. So Endless Dream. Yeah, and most of the middle section is like most of the song and called Talk, I think. So yeah. That's a huge gem right there. That song, Endless Dream.
You know what song I love that also has a really neat bass is State of Play.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say Cans and Brahms.
No, I love State of Play. I think they could have sold that to Michael Jackson.
I could kind of see that, yeah.
Yeah, some people are going to throw stuff at me, but I thought from the very beginning that if Michael had put that out, that would have been all over the radio all the time, and I could just see him and his
it definitely
right.
It definitely would have been, but
yeah.
But I'm glad that Yes got to have it.
Yeah, me too.
Just like I'm glad that they got to do Love Will Find a Way instead of giving that to Stevie Nicks, as great and fantastic as she is. Like I love the stuff from her, but I'm glad that Yes got to have that song instead of what they originally planned.
Yeah, and I'm just happy that Sound Chaser didn't end up like as planned to go to Burt Bacharach, because that would have changed. Like if you think about it, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I was like, I've never heard this, so it's probably made up.
Steve's ready to drink this one up. Yeah, talk was underrated. There's some great. Uh, we could go on and on. I don't think there's one thing that under delivered as far as Chris's playing, and it's easy to say that if you're a fan, but if you really objectively look at the wide range of music that comes out of their catalog from all the different iterations of the band, incarnations of the band, there's nothing that I could think of where I would think like, hey, Chris didn't really bring it on that one. You know what I mean? It'd be absurd to say that.
Yeah. Like, and even if it's not quite like some of the older stuff, I still think he includes stuff that's like very enjoyable to hear, you know.
Sure. Yeah. If you compare anything from the first three albums to, again, the bass line on Open Your Eyes, it's right there as good as anything, I think. It's groovy.
Yeah, it's groovy. All
Cool.
right.
Any last thoughts from our audience regarding favorite songs featuring Chris on lead vocals or on backing vocals or his bass playing or all of the above?
Yeah, I'm seeing if there's like any other comments that come in, but yeah, I don't know, that might just be it. So
Yeah.
all
And he
right.
wasn't, he was all about, yes, he didn't go out and do a bunch of session work. He doesn't guest on a bunch of albums, which is okay. So many musicians do that, and that's okay. But I guess we find that a lot in old prog,
Yeah.
ELP, none of them went and played on a bunch of albums. And so maybe that's kind of part of that genre's culture.
Yeah, I think it
Universal
depends on
Garden.
the player. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I don't know what the ratio is, but it really depends.
yeah. Universal Garden, that's a good call.
Oh yeah, David mentioned that,
Yeah.
and MP mentions I love the Lonesome Trail. That's a conspiracy one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The More We Live.
yeah,
Just
that's
focus on. I love that
yeah.
song.
Lots of people say that that's their favorite off of the Union album.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Huh.
thanks for
Okay.
tuning in,
Yeah.
everyone, and remembering Chris with us. And of course, continue to be remembered as we continue talking about Yes. And you can follow us at Yesshift on Facebook and YouTube and type in a podcasting app. You'll probably find us. We're easy to find. You can write to us at yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com. Any feedback, suggestions, and whatnot.
Yep.
And
Remembering Chris on what would have been his 77th birthday, Lucky Sevens.
oh, yeah, Lucky Sevens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of wish we thought of that beforehand, but yeah. But yeah, oh, that's another great one. That song.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Now I want to listen to the album.
that whole album is dynamite. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And we'll be back on Thursday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. UK time, interviewing drummer Ronnie Siago, who was in the 2011 lineup of Circa and has also performed with Patrick Moraz. And he's also met a couple other Yes connected people, and he even drummed for Bill Ward. All sorts of cool stuff. So tune into that.
Yeah, we'll ask
And
him about winning the 107 hot dogs at last summer's Ventura County Fair hot dog eating contest. Oh, wait, that was your brother. Never mind.
I don't think that happened.
No, it didn't. I'm looking forward to seeing Ronnie, meeting him, and talking to him.
I see David mentioned Chris's version of Amazing Grace.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like when he does that on bass. Like there's a Going for the One Sessions version that's a bonus track where it's just him on bass, and there's a 9012 Live the Solos version where you even hear John sing a little bit, I think.
And he did it when I saw them for the first time on the first leg of the Tormato tour, and the way he had his bass pedals integrated into his bass guitar sound or vice versa was just incredible. That's the first time I saw that. He played it as part of his whole solo thing that they went into from the Fish.
Yeah.
That was really neat. Yeah.
Yeah. All
Cool.
right.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
See you all soon.